What's up, Karma Nation? Welcome back to another edition of the Golf Teen It Up podcast. I'm your host, AC, with DFSkarma.com and BetKarma.com. I've got both screens up in front of me. We'll talk about them in a bit, but I'm excited for this podcast for two reasons. Number one, we have the first big tournament of the year. It's the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines. It's a beast of a course. We have all the big boys finally here. We've enjoyed some golf the last few weeks, and it's been fun. But I think this is where we really start accelerating, looking into the data, trying to find an edge. And frankly, this just becomes much more fun. We'll get into the John Rahm blurb. It's not just a putting contest this week, but the second part of this podcast, which is what I'm excited for, is we have a new identity. As always, Sam's with me here, but we have Bernie. Bernie's been with us in our Discord chat for a couple of years now, and it's funny. Our community continues to grow. And just by some small talk, I picked up that he was, in fact, a true club pro. You heard me correct. So we're going to have him on the podcast every now and then, give some feedback analysis on, his vision of the course, the setup, the type of players he's looking at. And he's a big bettor. And we're trying to inject, as we told you earlier in the year and last year, more betting and props into this DFS podcast. So I think it's going to be a great addition. So Bernie, welcome. I'm going to go right to you. No pressure. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're living. I mentioned Club Pro. That's really all I said. But anything else you want to just let Karma Nation or anyone listen about yourself? And frankly, this is a golf podcast. I'm actually curious your journey in golf. Did you play college golf? How did you become a Club Pro? And I know it's the best job ever. So yeah, man, thanks. And looking forward to hearing a little bit more.
No doubt, man. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Been playing golf for a long time. Too long, actually. Too much beer, Too much drinking, too much betting. If you play golf, you drink, you gamble. So naturally, it just led into watching golf and gambling on golf. So excited to get into it. Really looking forward to bringing some info to you guys. Teaching golf primarily. It's just the daily grind of golf. It's not a glorious job. It's not as much fun as it sounds. We don't play a ton, but the teaching is fun. Helping guys like you, AC, get a little bit better. Keeps us in business, as long as we give you guys just a little bit each time you come back and see us, charge you another lesson. That's how we make the world go around in the golf business,
That is true. All right, Sam, why don't you talk about, let's briefly recap last week. It was a wild divisional NFL weekend. Everybody was kind of entrenched there. And frankly, that's why we moved even our podcast up because, we're starting Wednesday, people. I think there's actually a little bit of a bigger edge this week simply on that. I think people are going to be caught off guard and won't get as much research in as possible. But Sam, what are you thinking about, last week? And then let's start diving into this course, this setup, everything, Torrey Pines.
First of all, I cannot believe you remember to mention that it starts on Wednesday.
Right now. I'm on like a new level. I got this baby coming. I'm telling you, man.
I thought it was gonna be like Wednesday afternoon, and you'd be like, "Oh, dude, the tournament starts tomorrow. All right, I'm playing Keegan." Yeah,
new AC 2022.
Last week, I don't know why I bet that tournament like every year. I should just put a note, and not to mention that even if I do bet, like I just bet only long shots. I don't know what I was thinking betting anyone under like 2-1. Swapser gets it done. That was hilarious.
Again.
Dude, that Rom comment was like so funny. The only thing I'll say, as funny as that was, I don't really know like why he was bitching just at that time because he's played that before. He knows it's set up for amateurs. Like that was just funny. He could have just annoyed and just like took it out on the thing, but it was just that was hilarious. I will mention I'm riding high because those divisional games were sick. Gabriel Davis is GOAT. Gabriel Davis won me like $3,000 if Travis Kelce, if anyone but him had caught that last touchdown. That was like a 5-figure payday, but it is what it is. You mentioned, I don't want to say, first week of the real season, but this field is beyond loaded. It is every year. I think this might be the strongest field they've had at this tournament even, and it's normally strong. So a ton of studs, a ton of good value. And this course it's tough. You guys have watched it, held the U.S. Open last year. It's in the rotation, the South course. It's so long, and basically the name of the game is POA putting on that. It's POA's talk about grass is so lame, and I'm sure I got trolled for it. But I will say, guys who putt well in that California bumpy POA definitely have an advantage. Some guys can do it, some guys can't, and you got to be able to hit it far. This is one of the only courses that I know where driving distance is always, an advantage and always should be viewed as such. But this is one of the only courses I know of where driving distance literally is more predictive, and you run a regression model is more, these guys have a bigger edge than normal compared to accuracy. So you're going to miss greens, you're going to miss fairways because they're narrow, and you want guys who they have to score well in that north course because that one's much easier. It's 500 yards shorter, so it's going to be these things where I'm going to favor the long hitters, not exclude the short hitters, but good short game, good around the green game. I mean, basically, you want to be a Dustin Johnson or Patrick Reed. Those are the two fits to this course.
Yeah.
That's
Bernie. If you wanted to compliment that again, I feel like that's the beauty of this podcast. I'm now the third in command as far as knowing things. I know enough to be dangerous. I feel like I'm really, what I bring to the table historically is game theory, and I'm really good at talking about a lot of the DFS pricing. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on the type of golfer you're looking at this week, just to pivot off Sam a little bit for props, betting, DFS.
Yeah, a bomb and gouge kind of course. Back to when Bryson won his U.S. Open. It's hit it as far as you can and chase after it. The rough isn't awful around here from what I can remember, 3-inch on average, maybe a little bit 3.5. Haven't seen anything about that changing. So the best way to get through that is hitting a wedge and getting steep. So if you can knock it down to 100 yards, 125 yards to hit into this green, the success on this course is hitting the green. I think if you look at the top 10 golfers last year, those tied, they're hitting 70% of greens, 77% of greens. Those who couldn't hit those greens because you got Brian Harmon or someone like that laid up way in the back, it's just hard to hold these greens. So looking for people who would just hit it down there. One of my favorite stats, Dylan Fratelli did it. He said for every yard that you go up in distance, you win 1.1 extra million in a tournament. So people are chasing the yards this week. You need to be chasing yards. So I'm looking at those guys that bomb it.
I will say, I actually laughed while you mentioned Brian Harmon. I got to do this, Sam. I have to give a shout out. A couple things. Now we're at the time of the podcast. Excuse me. We'll start talking about pricing and stuff here in a minute for all you DraftKings slaves. But shout out to me, yours truly, using the optimizer last week, Sam. And you were texting me. We were talking about it, and it's 3 weeks in, and I've already hit it. It wasn't big. I was winning about $3.5, $4,000 up until the last freaking hole, and I'm still happy with it. It was a 12x return. Brian Harmon was in the lineup, Molinari, a couple guys that I just adjusted on the ownerships, and it spit out, and it turned out to be a winning formula. So I had a really nice sweat. I did not cash with my cash game roster, but I didn't really take it that serious. Did you cash last week, Sam, with your cash game?
No, because
it's just, like you said, it's a tough week. It's a week where I hardly played any volume in cash games at all, just because look at the notes the last few years. I'm glad we continue to do this podcast and we talk about the same things. But again, now we're starting to rev up. With that being said,
it is my fault though. I should have known that Cameron Tringali would go 2 over on the course. That the course average was 4 under. That is on me. God,
you did like him a little bit too much. I will add to your guys' sentiment. The only thing, again, this is me game theory wise, and now we'll really get into it, is let's not completely shut out all the non-bombers, right? We'll get to a few of the guys, and I'm sure you guys will agree with me on a few of them as we go on.
Well, yeah, dude, Patrick Reed won last year. Clearly you don't have to have.
Yeah, no, for sure. But again, I think I'm just saying conceptually speaking, that's going to be the big narrative. You listen to all these podcasts out there, bomb and gouge, I get it. But we want guys with great long iron play as well. And I know we know this, but again, I just wanted to bring it to the table. That I think that's something that I'm really looking at this week. And at least in my history of notes, the stuff that I've been looking back the last few years. So let's start with pricing. This is where we get into it, Bernie, a little bit. I'll go to Sam, and then you can kind of interject and maybe talk pricing as well with us. And if you feel free, talk about any betting and props, first round leader stuff or any outrights as the podcast goes on. So we always start with 10,000 and above. I'm looking at the handy dandy projections portal. In specific, on the far right, we have this for all sports. The karma value, It doesn't mean 100% certainty, as you guys know, but the data generally doesn't lie, as I like to say, especially for the other sports. Golf is more volatile. But with that being said, John Rahm just, again, every week, I mean, this guy just, he's the favorite by far. I mean, I will say this game theory wise, Sam, and I'll go right to you. I tried making some lineups, right? I tried making a good cash game lineup with Rahm. Dude, I can't find anything I like. And I'm already coming off what I said the last few weeks, and I said I was going to play Rahm in every single tournament. I just don't think I can. I want to play him. I get it. He's the best play of the slate. I just don't like my lineup. I don't like the bottom two guys that fit my builds right now. I have to come off Rahm, unfortunately, and it sucks. But using the optimizer, I'll probably go at least even the field with Rahm because you can't not. Other than that, I think all these guys are in play. I mean, I didn't check ownerships. It's probably too early, but I'm assuming Xander is going to be highly owned. I'm guessing all these other guys won't be, Sam, right? I mean, besides Rahm, I mean, you probably get lower ownership on DJ. I'm just guessing JT, Berger. I don't know. I mean, are people really going to pay $10,000 for Berger? I think Hideki might get a little run just because he's been scorching hot. That's my analysis of the range.
1 sec. One thing is I think Bernie dropped off. So, but I mean, here's my thing. I get what you're saying about Rahm. He's expensive, but his last six trips here have been a win at the U.S. Open, 7th, 2nd, 5th, and a win, and a 29th.
I know.
So
I know. So, I want to play him. I know.
Yeah, you can fade him, but I won't be.
Your roster, though, have you made?
No, I was messing around like for a second. I mean, you're just clearly on the wrong plays. I mean, if you put in Nick Watney at 6,100, it kind of unlocks the whole slate.
Is that like a thing right now?
Yeah, I did. Nick Watney, 6,100. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I like Rahm. JT, I probably won't play unless it's gonna be really owned. Hideki, no. DJ, I like a lot. It's funny because he had quote unquote like a bad season last year, I guess, which he kind of did. But at the same time, it's like he also had like the worst putting I've ever seen him have. So I have no problem. What I'm curious about is if it's going to be the normal, no one really knows, and then Xander, as always, is like the third highest owned player of this slate.
That's what I said. I mean, Xander, I do
like Xander. He's actually number 1 in my course fit. But I don't know. It's for me always a Xander. It's like if he's going to be 20% owned or something, I mean, I always fade him. But Berger, I don't know, dude. It's hard for me to say because I like Berger a lot. For some reason, people seem to dislike him, but I like him. But I do agree that 10,000 is like kind of steep, and he hasn't really played well here like ever. So I don't know. I mean, it's more like it's one of the things we talk about on a lot of pods where it's like when you have to kind of compare the course history with also like the player they are. Like now, compare that course history. I mean, his most recent starts have been really good. I mean, on the PGA, his most recent starts are 2 top 10s. His most recent 5 starts are, 5th, 7th, 23rd, 11th, 26th. So I don't know. I mean, he's gonna be low. Are you saying like if Berger was gonna be under 10%, if he was under 12% owned, would you play him or no?
No, I mean absolutely not because Bryson's cheaper than Daniel Berger. I mean, that's all you need to know. Like,
yeah, I'm playing Bryson.
Bryson's going to be owned. Berger won't be. Xander will be owned. People won't play DJ. DJ's a player that just scares the hell out of me because I just feel like at some point he's going to – I don't know if he's sleeping. It's a slumber. DJ will wake up at some point and he will go, on his typical DJ type of run. We'll see, though. Hideki's been
such a good power putter.
I know, man. I mean, he's a guy like in we talk about the optimizer in GPP leverage tournaments, right? Game theory. Dustin Johnson's like one of the plays of the slate. I feel like up top. I mean, Hideki.
I didn't go over this. I didn't go over the start. I mean, if you look at the course, the type of course that I would look at in terms of because I'm trying to do a lot more of using course comps this year. I mean, you look at like Riviera, the Genesis, where Dustin Johnson's played well a lot. You have like Pebble, kind of. It's not the same type of course, but Poa. You have like Bethpage Black. You have Muirfield. These courses that I think are somewhat similar. I mean, DJ is good there. I mean, Burns is a little lower than we've gotten yet. It's pretty good. I mean, it's just hard for me to play Berger if he's going to be owned at that price because I agree with you, Bryce is right there. And honestly, even though I'm not a fan of his per se. Like Xander to me feels like a better play than Bernie.
Yeah. Bernie, how do you look at the range up top for DFS, and then do you even consider odds like this to start a tournament? Like Sam and I are always looking for guys like this. Day 2, day 3. I'm sure you are as well, but do you ever dabble with these guys outright? I mean, I usually don't. I like to start personally, in the 20K, 20 to 1 odds and above, unless it's a major. Unless it's a major, that's the only time I really truly try and change that strategy.
No, I don't really dabble too much in those top odds. The live betting, and we kind of talked about this before going live, the live betting on these guys can be so good because you can catch DJ who goes 1 or 2 under the first round, knowing he can go 6, 7 the second. So getting that separation after the first round for a live bet is really where you can get a lot of value in it. So you can get someone like Sam Burns who can run hot and just torch a field for the second round or third round. That's where if I can get DJ
not to mention, I found something similar to that where a lot of times I've found with tournaments like this where you'll get a guy who goes scorching hot in the morning on Thursday, and it'll be a bad example because they're high on, but it's like, say Bryson is 20 to 1 and he hasn't even teed off yet. He might drift to like 25 or 30 and played yet. Like the books are adjusting due to some guy who got a lightning hot putter, like a freaking Peter Malnati or something. So yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, would you, Anthony, who would you bet? If I had to bet one of these guys, the top, 6 in the 10K range, my bet would honestly probably be DJ. I think I saw him at 20 to 1.
If he's 20, that's kind of egregious if he's 20 to 1. I get it, it's a loaded field, but yeah, that's actually a really good bet for one of the guys up top. I did not see that he was.
I think one of the things that, and this is just because I'm around it all the time, Poa grass is a quick grower. It's one of those that pops up as the day goes on. So if you're looking at like a first round leader, if you're going to dabble in some of that, watch the tee times. Morning guys likely to have smoother putting greens, be able to score a little better than those afternoon guys, because that Poa will start standing up especially if it's warm. That stuff stands up, and all of a sudden you're missing putts just because it took a bad hop.
Now that is hashtag analysis, Bernie, and that's why you're on the podcast.
Dude. Yeah,
that was actually a really good take.
I play the showdowns like I kind of told you guys. So like when I'm looking at that showdown for round 1, betting first round leaders, and I don't mind sharing all that information. Yeah. I'm looking at those morning guys for that exact reason.
There you go, guys. Jump into our Discord chat. You can access it at dfskarma.com. Myself, Sam, Bernie, we're in there. We're chatting all sports, but again, obviously this is the golf podcast, and of course I didn't mention earlier, but all of our content, our core plays, our final thoughts, all of our odds stuff in our betting article at betkarma.com and dfskarma.com. All right, guys, let's run to the next range. Sam, I'll start with you. I started the top range. Why don't you start in the range from, you kind of mentioned Burns. We'll start. You want to include Burns?
Yeah.
Go down to Mac.
It is funny. I think I'm similar to a lot of people. It's really tough to like see Burns at this price in his betting odds and be like, oh, that's like the right number. But like, it is the right number. Like, it's tough for me to look at him in the same light as I hate Brooks, but like Scotty Scheffler and who's like right a little below him, or Bryson, Xander up there. But like, that's kind of where he belongs. I think he will be really high owned because he's going to pop in every single stat model on everything. But Burns, I will say my only pause possibly with him would be, besides if he's high owned, is that he just kind of plays a lot better in these weaker fields. His major record kind of stinks. Now he's a different player, but I don't have a ton of interest. He's going to be owned. Brooks, no. Scotty, I do like. My only issue with him is he's like a semi-Xander like in ownership. I think people just love to play him, so he's always owned. So he's someone I like and I think fits this course really well. But if he's going to be high owned, I have no problem pivoting there. And I guess if we're going to go to like the high 8s range, I'm probably going to skip these other guys. Willie Z is going to be popular. I'm not playing him because he's such a bad putter, but I like Finau. He's going to be popular. I know you like Finau. He tears up this course. He's so good in California. And then, I don't know, dude. I really hope people are taking one bad tournament from Taylor Gooch and not playing him because he's an elite play at 8-9. Such a good play. No one's going to own him.
His price is a little kind of high, I think, though, for this field. I'm not arguing that the Gooch play and the form and all that That's just what I think when I look at him here in this field. I'd rather have the other guys.
I agree with you. And like I normally again, but that's kind of the thing with Sam Burns. Like, look at Taylor Gooch's stats. Like,
Yeah,
he literally is top 20 in tee to green, and he's top 10 in approach. He's opportunities, birdie. I mean, he's not great around the green, but around the green, this is something I'm working on for maybe get on the site and kind of on my own time. Is that it's something I heard on a podcast, and it's important to think about how like guys who are good around the green and scrambling, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because if a guy doesn't rank highly in around the green or scrambling, that could be because like Corey Connors, he hits so many greens. So like you have to take in the fact that he's not that good, but he's also hitting way more greens than anyone else. So Taylor Gooch, I think, is good. I mean, would you rather play Taylor Gooch or a 20% on Leishman or a 20% on Finau? I'd probably play.
Why would Leishman even? You really think Leishman's going to get that high owned?
Yeah, because he's just playing really well, and he's. I think he has good course comps, and I think he has really good history here. Yeah, he won 2 years ago. Yeah, he's made 7 of his last 8 cuts with 2 T10s, a win, 2 T20s. Yeah, he'll be super owned.
So we're kind of in this 8K range, up to the Sam Burns, Bernie. I'm just thinking, man. I don't know, Sam. I know this podcast is long at times, whatever, and you and I both, we glance over people, but I mean, there's someone that's just punching me in the face in this range, and you didn't mention him, and I'm just curious.
Speed.
No, you're not like on lock button zone considering the price of Sungjae. I know he doesn't have the greatest quote unquote form here, but he's never missed a cut. He's been in the top 30 all 3 times. I feel like at 9,300, looking at his stats, his rolling stat. I mean, he's obviously catching my eye. I mean, I bet him outright. What do you think about Sungjae, Bernie?
I like him. Ball striker, hits a ton of greens. I like him. Sam was just kind of talking shit about him. I like Jordan too. Jordan.
Oh, dude, don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. I love Jordan, but I just don't think this is like the best spot for his game. Now that's a stupid thing to say because the best person in the world can play well anywhere. But I guess like if I had to choose, I'm just like in like terms of price, Spieth. It's hard to say like, oh, he's a bad play. But for me, like I would rather play. As you just meant, I'd probably rather play Sungjae than him or Finau. Anthony's going to play Zalatoris because he's chalk.
No, I'm actually not going to play Zalatoris simply because you actually brought up a great point. When I feel like I don't like playing Zalatoris, even though he did win me a lot of money last year, that one tournament. Every time he is high owned, to your point, he isn't the greatest putter. Like I don't know.
He had horrendous, dude. He is.
I don't want to say this is. I am not saying this is the Joel Dahman talk from a few weeks ago when we were on this podcast, because they're like night and day different players. Zalatoris is way more talented, but what did he shoot, a 60 or 61 the other day? That's in everybody's in memory right now. He's, to your point, again, it's Monday, so we don't have ownerships. He is going to get a bump in ownerships. I just don't want to even deal with it, right? Like I'm almost just hoping that obviously the worst happens there. I like Finau a lot. I like Sungjae a lot. I do like Scotty. I don't know if I can fit him in my lineup. I like him. None of us talked about Brooks. I don't think he's going to get – but, think about Brooks and Spieth and some of these other guys. Like they just again, game theory-wise, GPP tournament bro-wise, those are the plays that you should play. Like I don't think Brooks is going to get much ownership, but like talk about an amazing leverage play in tournaments. I mean, it's a long course. It should set up well for him. Brooks kind of just shows up whenever he wants, Bernie, right? I mean, how do you value a guy like Brooks, Bernie, in the betting markets? I mean, he actually has pretty nice price tag, I thought, when I looked on the books. I didn't bet him. I only bet 4 guys. I'm probably just sticking with that. But what do you think about a guy like Brooks and some of these other guys, Sungjae and Finau?
I like Brooks a lot on a live bet though, because right now you get him at 25, which is okay. It's not bad, but he carries that because of his name. Yeah. You put big names in the field, Brooks shows up. That's just what it is. If he's healthy, yeah, he can play well, absolutely. And it's that bomber mentality of he'll hit a ton of greens. He doesn't putt exceptionally well. He's good, really good, but not like an elite putter. I want to echo the Taylor Gooch thing too. 4 cuts here. I was all over him as far as my lineups go. So Big on Gooch this week too.
We have.
I mean, he's just. I mean, also, I don't know. I mean, dude, Brooks. I don't know, Anthony. We've done this podcast long enough. I hate Brooks, so I'm not going to play him.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, and that's why,
It's too cool.
like, we don't even talk about him because you and I glance over him all the time because we damn well know he doesn't have the stats that you and I actually look for. He is a baller. I got to give him that. Like, he shows up in the big tournaments, and I don't know.
He's a major course player, and this is a major course.
He's a big game hunter, and like that's what I'm thinking. Like, if I'm running the optimizer, I am not excluding Brooks Koepka in the optimizer this week. I will exclude a lot of other guys, like I mentioned, a Berger or even a Willie Z or a Leishman. Like a guy like Brooks can just straight up come here and freaking win.
If you're doing 20 lineups, probably put him in 4.
Yeah,
just in case.
I don't know. He's kind of what? I hate Brooks. I hate his face.
Guys, before we head to the next range, there's a guy that none of us have talked about. I fucking love him every week. I profess my love for him in Discord before the season started. You already know who I'm talking about. And you know what we like to do on this podcast, Sam and Bernie. If you don't hear us talk about this, you'll hear
Best player on tour. Best player on tour right here.
No, we just like to zig when others zag. Connor's let a lot of people down last week, including myself. And I am going right back to the well. I'm going right back to the well.
Are you kidding me? When I started making my player pool, I wrote him in. I didn't even know his price yet. I just wrote him in as someone I'm putting.
I mean, he had his first missed cut in I feel like a year and a half. At least that's what it feels like. I actually don't know. But, a couple extra days of sleep. He had the baby, whatever. I don't know, man. I no reason to fade Corey Connors. And in fact, if you look at his game log, not to be game log watcher guy, he's only had 2 rounds above par in the last 22 rounds. I mean, that's incredible. The
only pause for Corey Connors is that he is so bad around the green, and something Bernie mentioned before, which is so true, is there's so many bunkers in this course. Corey Connors, I don't think he's ever practiced a bunker shot because he's so bad. So my only thing is it's one of those courses where Corey Connors could hit 80% of greens, he is very capable of, and do well. But when he starts missing the greens, which guys do, it could just be an auto double. It's
a very valid point, Sam. I mean,
that's just a fact. I mean, I don't know, dude. It's a weird one because.
What are your thoughts, Bernie, on Mr. Corey Connors and the betting markets, DFS, and how his game is? Because what if he is just hitting every green like he usually does? Then we don't have to worry about it as much.
Yeah, I think one of the key stats for me was greens and regs, because if you look at the top of the leaderboard last year at Torrey, all those guys are hitting 68, 70% of greens. Corey Connor leads the field in greens and regulation, so you got to look at that guy to hit a ton of them. There were a couple guys last year I saw. Lanto was one of them where he hit 20% of his sand saves. All right, so if he went 1 for 5, I think that's 20%. I do golf, not math. So if he went 1 for 5, okay, he's 20%. There's another one that was 28 on the sand saves. I'm not too worried about the occasional double from Corey Connors. I kind of expect it out of Corey Connors. Yeah. So I love him this week for the reason that if you hit a ton of greens, you're successful here because this is a very difficult course.
That's well put.
He'll hit the center of the green in 2-putt and move on. He's not ashamed to do it. So I like that a lot. I like those guys who are going to take aim at the center of the green more often than not.
Sam, I know you want to interject, but I will say this too, right? I'm trying to take my game theory throughout the podcast. Dude, trust me, I want to play Rahm. But we just talked for all 3 of us. We have a lot of guys in this range. All 3 of us have guys that we like. And, again, I feel like there's an opportunity cost this week. If you're playing Rahm, you really can only take one of the other guys. But if you just drop down from Rahm to say, hypothetically, a wink, wink, Tony Finau, you guys know I love him. I mean, Finau's course history here alone is immaculate. He's not in the greatest of form. Finau can easily just casually walk into a top 10, top 5, pay off the price. You save $2,000 off Rahm, and then you can get a couple guys in this range. That's kind of what I keep thinking about this week. And dude, I just want Corey Connors, honestly, as lame as this sounds, I just want him to make the cut because I know he's good enough to score enough DraftKings points for me over the weekend. And like you said, Bernie, I trust the guy just to get on the damn green. Is he going to win? Probably not. Did I bet him? Yeah, it probably is Bernie. But I do that because I know he puts ball in position. Can he get hot with the putter? I mean, yeah, I guess anybody can on tour these days.
My camera cracked out there for a second when you guys started, so forgive me if you guys talked about him. JT also love him if you want to save $1,000. Don't forget he's got Bones. He's got Bones carrying his bag this week.
Yeah.
He's a master of Tory.
Yeah, I mentioned it's weird. I love Justin Thomas is my favorite player on tour. So, I mean, it's hard to say
Great play.
oh yeah, he's a bad play. My only thing is if I was choosing between him and Rahm, I would choose Rahm, but not because JT is considerably worse, but honestly because Rahm is just a better putter and better at everything. But that's not fair because Rahm is better than everyone at everything. So I mean,
true.
I don't know. I was gonna say before I forget that in that Connors range, I mean, I don't know if I'll get there because I don't play him a lot. I think he's always more of a bet for me, but I didn't understand the Matthew Wolff chalk last week at all. I thought that was really weird. But this week, no one is going to play him, and this course actually probably fits in better than last week.
Dude, I was thinking about Wolff, even in my main lineup. Honest to God,
Yeah.
I probably won't do it because at the end of the day, I'm a little wussy cat.
He's so volatile, dude. I mean, because I like Max Homa right under him. Max Homa could get some buzz just because, if you look at comps, he won a Riviera and stuff.
Yeah.
But Wolff, I mean, he has he's one of those guys who I think has winning upside. I mean, also if you he's a good putter, can be. He's second in this field in driving distance behind Bryson. He's top 10 in birdie or better. So he has what you would. But the problem is that he does make he can make some massive numbers. So I don't know. It's a tough one. I just don't think he'll be owned. I've torched people last week.
And we got to move on to the next range. We're falling behind time. But I just want to say to your point, Wolff is a guy that I feel like I'm going to play him every single week in the optimizers. A lot of these other guys, I'll X out, the Brooks, the Matt Wolffs. I'll just simply go 3X because there will be a couple weeks this year. They're just going to, Wolff's just going to win a couple tournaments this year. We don't know when. But to your point, he's so volatile, it's hard to tell when, right? So I always kind of want to have some exposure, but probably won't be in the main lineup. All right, let's go below. Sam, I'll go back to you here. You talked about Keegan, my boy Si Woo. Shout out to him being in my main lineup last week.
No, dude, we got some great value here. We got
talk about the value. Talk about
can blow me.
Talk about
he always kills me when I play him. But dude, Justin Rose not only has won here, but he's playing well too. He's reappeared from dust.
Is that becoming a thing?
I don't know what that means, but I don't know what that refers to. But
is he going to be on? It's Monday, right?
I don't know. I expect because if you look at the name value and the fact that he's under 8, I would say
true,
probably. But I mean, dude, are we going to sit here and say that Justin Rose? Why is Justin Rose 700 and Ryan Palmer's 80?
I kind of keep going. You and Bernie talk about it. I'm going to look up Justin Rose's stats because I kind of wrote him off after last.
They're good, dude. Keegan, I think fits. Keegan fits every course, dude. We already know the narrative. The short game, his putting is so bad. So honestly, your guess is as good as mine if he'll putt not last in the field. I have no idea why Joaquin Niemann is 77.
Wait, I didn't even see him in this field. Not gonna lie.
I don't know why he's 77. That's a weird one. And you mentioned I like Lanto, or Bernie, you mentioned I like Lanto a lot. I don't think people play him. They're used to seeing him in the low 7s. Yeah, I don't know what's his betting number because I don't know if he can win this field, but I think he's a great play. I don't think people are going to own him. And then, Luke List.
He's down there, 60 plus 65 on Lanto.
Down there. Anthony, if you want the guy, the potential Joel Dominant of the week, and I do actually really like him, and I think he's improved a lot, so I don't know if it's going to get me off him, but I think Aaron Wise at 75 will be extremely popular. And I'm going to be honest, I'll probably bet Aaron Wise, so I might just feed him.
I did think about I looked at him when I was kind of trying to make my main lineup. Bernie, what are your thoughts on some of these guys in this there's a lot of guys to Sam's point in this 7K range, mid to 7K range.
One of those names. Obviously I like Lanto. I mentioned him earlier just because he's been on my mind. He played well here last year, played well last week even. So definitely someone I'm looking at. One of those name value guys like Rose that you guys mentioned. You might hate him. Jason Day's in this field. Don't forget, and he loves to play in California. I know you guys probably hate him, but I love Jason Day. It's a homer pick, honestly.
Anthony hates me because I was on Jason Day. Somehow last year I timed the market on Jason Day better than anyone I've ever seen. I played him for 2 months in a row where he was great. I took him at, was it last year Tuesday? I took him at the PGA Championship where he came in top 5 when Morikawa won or whatever. And then he went back to dude, my problem with Jason Day DFS wise though is that I think he's a fine bet. Obviously, the course history is there, and the putter always can be there. But he just he gets breathed on wrong, and he breaks 9 bones in his back. So it's it's hard to run the risk. But at that,
Sam, do you remember what I said about Jason Day last week on the podcast? Do you remember?
Jason Day is the same price as Tom Hoge.
I said, fuck Jason Day. I'm not playing him this year. I'm not playing Jason Day
this year.
I'm not playing Jason Day. I'm not playing him.
Because you're a sucker,
lost too much money with him last year. I mean, dude, I've seen enough. To your point, I've had him in big volume lineups before, even last year. And to Sam's point, his back started hurting. I'm not even dealing with it because you don't know when it's going to come.
He stubs his toe and he gets
I'm not dealing with it. I'd rather take any other golfer around here. Jason Day's not going to burn me. I mean, at the end of the year, if he wins, so be it 1 week.
Well, you probably take the GOAT, Jonathan Vegas, who I will be going back to.
No, he gets too popular, man. I do like Johnny Vegas, but in DFS, man, it's everybody wants to play him. I think it's just because of his name.
He's my top EV bet in terms of book odds compared to mine. I have him more a 70 or 75 to 1. I think TK has him 110. He won't win those. I don't know what I'm thinking, but
can I give it? I mean, you guys got me thinking about some guys in this range. I got to go back to the drawing board. You know the feeling in DFS when you're yes, I got the winning lineup. I'm done, and then you change it 9 times.
Click his name down there too. You want Sneds,
right? I do
click his name.
I just want to say,
Anthony, who's at 7,400, who I always play, and I hate his guts.
Carlos Ortiz all the time.
No, he's at 73. He's a GOAT. No, he's at 74.
Oh, 74. That's who I was going to go with. Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be mega chalk this week, and if he's not, then people are done.
For everything I do for him, he never repays me, ever. I literally talk about him, write him up. He's an asshole. I don't know.
The thing that scares me is, and Bernie, how would you think about this, right? DFS betting, whatever. Keith Mitchell right now is just, again, the stats are popping. If you clearly diving into these things, the more recent models, the more midterm models, Keith Mitchell price per share, whatever you want to call it, it's probably the best play of the slate in my opinion. But his course history here, and we're not married to it. Sometimes we are, sometimes we aren't. It's terrible. How do you factor that in?
Course history has got to be big, especially at Torrey Pines, just because it's so famous. It's one of those courses where, I'm down here in North Carolina, so you go play one of these big name courses and you don't play it well, that sticks with you. It hangs around. So why can I not tame Torrey Pines? Why can I not tame Quail? What's keeping me from doing well here? So I like Keith Mitchell. I like him most weeks. In a field like this, I'm not touching him. I'm telling you, right underneath him, Sned's right there waiting for you. Great putter. You might as well pick him.
Here's the problem with Sneds. Is that he's bad.
How was his stats last week? And
he's
guys,
only got to be good once.
I did.
No, that's true. No, that's true. I mean, trust me. Sneds, and I've played. He's one of those guys. He seems like a way worse. So I'm not comparing them apples to apples, a Webb Simpson, where he has these courses that he just shreds. Isn't Wyndham where you fire a 59 or something those courses, those shorter ones? I mean, I know he's played well here, particularly. I'm just saying. I mean,
want to see
why play
7 straight cuts for
70?
Sneds.
Yeah, no. I am biased because I'm going a lot off because obviously it's new in the season. Last year, I don't know what was going on with him. He just was off all year. It is what it is. But
I made a mistake. I said it was Keith Mitchell. That's my fault. I was talking about Luke List. I know you briefly mentioned him, Sam, but he's the guy. The stats are popping. I think he's going to be mega chalk. I'd be surprised if he wouldn't be.
Totally.
I think I'm going to.
I mean, the guy you're playing, who I think is hilarious. People are going to go back and play Molinari, and that's hilarious to me.
So why talk me off the ledge? I mean, I want to. Shit. Talk me off the ledge.
He played well once. He played well one time because he punted his ass off.
You know about my history with him. When I saw it, I was all right, it's time to buy.
He's still his dad, Tiger Woods, hasn't let him go free yet.
What are your thoughts?
Ever since number 12 at the Masters.
I don't like him. And it's a personal bias too. I don't like him because he tried to keep the Masters from Tiger. Personal
last
thing.
week
I'm
was
rocking,
his-
I'm
last
rocking the
week was his
Mock Neck, I
first-
can't.
Last week was his first top 10 since February of 21. That's pretty good. What a stud, dude.
All right, well, fine. I won't play him.
I didn't even click him. How
No,
much
you
is
can-
he this week?
He's
He's
76. Like people are gonna be like, "Oh my god, sixth place last week." All right, that's
He
cheap value.
also was. This is loyalty points. He was in my winning lineup last week at 2% owned. We did talk about him on the podcast. I brought him up last week. So
to be honest,
I'm
I don't even care. I've been waiting to get down to my guy at 7,100 for like the last.
All right,
10
let's get
minutes.
to him because we got to wrap this pod up.
Patrick Rogers.
Man, really?
Okay. So hear me out for a second. Patrick Rogers is not very good. That's a
Yeah,
start.
why are you playing?
But when we look at 71, he's a really good putter. Always has been. Good putter. And his form, I'd say, is not too bad. It's more, again, this is a price thing. It's like Patrick Rogers, in my opinion, I love Wyndham Clark. He's an old friend of mine. I always mention that so people think I'm cool. But, like, Patrick Rogers is better than Wyndham. Michael Thompson, last week, that chalk was hilarious. I mean, like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, Patrick Rogers has more top 20 upside than, like, nearly every guy ahead of him. Like, I'm sorry, Adam Hadwin. Like, I don't care about Adam Hadwin. Joel Dahman doesn't hit it far enough. Swagford, he's probably tired, Anthony, as you know. Ricky.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, dude. Ricky at 72.
Crawford has terrible course history here.
That's
I
tough.
don't know, man.
Can
I'm
you
not-
play Ricky
dude.
this week?
Ricky,
I'll probably play Ricky because I hate money, but he's a bad play. I'm openly saying he's a bad play. But I think Patrick Rogers is a good value. So.
anyone in this range, Bernie, you're looking at?
Yeah, I got an affinity for Sebastian Munoz. He's made me a ton of money last year.
Wow.
I got an affinity for him.
Oh my
Big-
god!
big
Dude, do you know who you're on the
Seabass.
pod with? Do you know who you're on the pod with?
Salmon
It's like
King.
tough for me to not write up Munoz every single week. It's like it's a struggle.
Agreed.
To not
He's
talk
awesome.
about him.
Love betting Seabass.
You know, he does
Um,
well with like big tournaments too, historically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he just kind of he's more on Bermuda, but dude, he makes a ton of birdies. Sometimes he just stops caring.
Bermuda similar to Poa though, really
Yep.
tight.
Yep.
One of those things you really got to take your time and read. You'll notice the color differences. Those people like my boy Mackenzie, he practices out at a couple courses by us, bent grass only.
Don't
You
say
gotta avoid
Mackenzie.
those guys
Don't
like
say
that.
Mackenzie Hughes.
Would never, not
I-
at this course. Would never.
I hate Mackenzie.
Also, you can't talk shit about him. That's my boy. So
Yeah, I just dude,
He's a grinder, man.
he's
Mackenzie's
not
a
a grinder.
Not
He
out-
just
not
makes,
out here,
he
though.
makes every putt he's ever looked at. I don't think anyone's
on bent
ever.
grass, bent grass, elite bent grass player.
I have
Not
a
here.
really dusty play at 69 who I actually am going to play because he's actually playing well the first time in like 2 years.
Who
Not
is
Kyle
it?
Stanley. JJ
Taylor
Spawn.
Oh, JJ. He's a West Coast guy.
He sure is.
Jesus.
He sure
Terrible
is.
course history, but
I'm playing.
what?
I'm playing Norlander again. I played him last week. I'm playing him again this week.
Yeah, didn't he come like top 5 or top 3 here last year or something?
Yeah, he played.
Dude.
He played great last year. He was in the top 5. But
Like, I know what you're talking about. Spawn has
uh,
played here 5 times and has made 3 cuts with the top 10 and the top 25. So.
yeah, he looks okay. This
James
is-
Hahn, great course comp. I will be playing him as always.
That's an interesting play. I actually took a look at him simply because he was all the way down at 64, but nobody's going to play James Hahn.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the GOAT at 64, Jason Duffner.
I knew you were
Duff
going to.
Daddy.
Dude, if Duff could just putt, like if he putt badly, he would play well. Like, literally, if he just putt badly, it's just the fact that he putts horrifically.
You know who I hate admitting kind of, and again, he's not a bomber, but he does kind of fit the narrative of hitting greens. You know what? I didn't want to say it because we have a self-imposed ban on Emiliano Grillo. Just don't play him. But for 6,700,
Oh, I'm playing Grillo. I'm playing Grillo at 67. Are you kidding me?
it's an interesting price. I mean, there's not many guys down below further. I mean, a lot of these guys. That's the thing when you get these loaded fields. Like, I mean, do we really want to take any of these guys? Sam, you mentioned somebody even cheaper than that. I mean, I just can't play. I don't know if I can stomach playing any of these guys in the 6K range.
The last guy I'll say is I kind of owe some gratitude to Vince Whaley because I played him in Showdown last week and he fired like a 9 under. So I kind of probably owe him some rostering. But I know the chalk is going to be, I think at 6-7 is that fucking Joe Bramlett because he fucking tore ass last week. I'm not playing.
He bombs it, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. He gets pretty far.
But man, he's a guy. I mean, Jesus, dude, if he's chalky, not chalk, but it's like let's just not play him. Like let him miss the cut at 20% owned. I mean, if that's, I know he won't be that high, but yeah, I don't know if I want to play him.
No.
Wow, his stats are actually not bad. Whoa, might have to take a second look here. Interesting. Bernie, what's your thoughts on him? I mean, wow, he does bomb the ball. He's hitting some hits and regs too, and his drives are hitting the fairway. I mean, maybe it will be. Sam, I see times like this, I don't think he's going to be mega chalk. Even if he's 10% owned, that's not ridiculous. That's still
for a 6,700 guy, that's high.
Yeah,
it's all relative. You have to think it's like is Finau 50% owned high? No, that's pretty low. But like for a guy like when Joel Dahman was like 18% of the week, hilariously, like that's stupid.
Let's stick with this Bramlett dude for a second. Like, would you?
He's good.
So, where has he been though? Like, why has he not been on our radar?
Dude, he's been around for a while. He just hasn't come top 5.
Yeah. Okay, so
he's good. No, he's good. Yeah, I don't. As you know, I don't really ever play the like if Griot got like chalky at 67, that's the easiest fade.
It's just interesting to see how far he hits the ball, and frankly, the last 3, 4, 5 rounds, he's been pretty accurate with it too, especially even hitting the greens with his approach shots. I mean, man, he's definitely going to be owned. To your point, Sam. Like, I mean, there's reasons for him to be owned. I just thought he was like a bomber and sprayed it all over the place, but I mean, he's playing well. And again, Bernie, feel free to interject here. I mean, I've brought things up like this in the past, and like, there's no way to quantify if it's a thing or not. But sometimes I feel like in golf, I'm not as good as you guys, but even me, as terrible as I am, I know when I'm starting to get hot, just like you guys. Like when you find something and you're in rhythm. And I feel like the DFS community doesn't weight that in as much. I mean, sure, the big mega touts are there. I'm sure they do as well. But wouldn't you consider that with a guy like Joseph Bramlett that we're talking about? Like last 3 rounds, it looks like he's checking all the boxes.
Absolutely, yes. Especially with those lower owned guys. When I'm looking down at these 65, 67, 6,800 guys, you got to see who's hot, who's in the zone, because that's how they got onto the tour. You win one Korn Ferry event in top 3 and a couple of them, you're in. So they can run hot at certain times. So you got to look at those guys down here that are low owned, because that's how they're making their money, is by making cuts and by getting hot. And that's why they'll play every tournament in a row when they are hot. So love Bramlett for that reason. He's one of those guys who does run hot. One of the others down here, Sahith Theegala, big fan.
Dude.
Watch him a lot. He's hot right now. He's played well 3 weeks in a row, or the last 2 for sure. I think 3. But he's a stud golfer. He's really good. Someone I'm on as far as a punt goes. I'm looking at Stars and Scrubs builds this week. So those 67, 68s, just looking for somebody to make the cut. And it's one of those guys who's running hot right now.
Interesting. All right, let's kind of wrap it up. We kind of went a little bit over, but that's all good. I mean, happy to have Bernie on.
That's on me.
Sam, how are we finishing this thing? Obviously, we're finishing with a bet. We got Bernie with us tonight. So, Bernie, have you made any bets yet? Anything? You mean, again, outright first-round leader?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got a few first-round leaders out there. I have obviously I got the GOAT of first rounds, Keegan. Also put a first round on my other favorite first-round bet, Charlie Hoffman, old Charles. Nice. Always out there in the first round. So got those 2 running just because they're my long shot darts.
Often first round leader in Cali and at Masters every year.
Mm-hmm.
Just take,
You have to.
Yeah.
He's just one of those guys who all of a sudden is going to show up. He's not going to win it. Will not win. Just like
he'll go like 60. He'll go like 64 and like 71, 71, 70. Yeah.
Sam, any bets? Go ahead, Bernie.
The last one for first round leader I had was Taylor Gooch, and we already touched on it.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I'll say we try to avoid like the very tops. I'll go. I think I'm about to bet him is Taylor Gooch at 50-1,
Wow.
and then my long shot will be P. Raj 150. But I will definitely take my other ones. Will be I'll definitely take Rogers top 20 and he'll miss the cut, and then I'll probably take Vegas top 20, and then he'll miss the cut. So should be a good week.
I will finish up. I'm just going to our Discord chat right now. I posted my bets I've made for the week, and I'm going to stick with the one that I gave out publicly, Sung Jae 28-1. Again, you can hop in our Discord chat to see the other ones I bet. I did toss a sprinkle on my boy Molinari because I had to, and I know he won't win, Sam, but I'm seeing some stuff out of Molinari at least early in the year. But that does it, guys. Thanks, Bernie, for joining us. Looking forward to having you here and there. Until next week, we'll keep it going, guys. DFSkarma.com, betkarma.com. Good luck, and we'll talk to you next week.